Pest to help you. We're a family-owned and operated business for almost 30 years. We know our bugs. So when you want the best, call Integrated Pest. Frank Comstead with Integrated Pest Management, controlling insects in and around the Houston area for over 30 years. Today we're going to talk about flea control. When we do flea control, we use a combination of materials. Remember, fleas go through a complete metamorphosis, egg, larva, pupa, adult. To try and control these stages, we have to use more than just a one-prong approach. So we use an insecticidal granule in the yard that's applied like fertilizer. Cover the yard. Then we come back and use a combination of residual insecticides. We put it in our 50-gallon sprayer, and then we basically water this material in with several more residual insecticides, and we cover the entire yard. This is going to go ahead and give a good control level for fleas. Transitioning from the outside to the inside, we're using the same ideas about combining materials to go ahead and optimize our control. So what do I do on the inside? Well, as you can see, I use several different materials. This material right here is a 6% pyrethrum. Pyrethrum acts as an irritant. It's like a synergist or a tear gas. So when you add this to your tank mix, which is down here, here's my sprayer, and I'll add an ounce of exciter to my tank mix to a gallon of water, and then I go ahead and spray this. It irritates the fleas. Well, the more they're irritated, the more they're going to come in contact with the other materials that I have in my tank mix. My birth control, insect growth regulator, and my residual insecticide. So here's 3 more materials that I'm using in my fight against fleas. Again, go back to the cake batter analogy. Here's the cake batter. Here's the frosting. This is when after I spray all these materials in a room, I come back and I lightly gas it with this material. This is like a fogger in a can, except it doesn't dispense 100%. What does that mean? Well, if I want to put out 1 second, I put out 1 second. The other thing that this will do is I can treat under beds. If you think about a fogger, it creates a mushroom cloud of poison. It doesn't make 90-degree turns, okay? This allows me to treat under chairs, under beds, those kind of areas. So this is another useful tool. Another tool, it's pet core for the animals. You know, what I tell people is set your dog out on a white sheet. Spray this on a washcloth and love your dog. And what you're going to do is you're going to be able to determine the population of the flea that you have. You know, does 1 or 2 fleas pop off? Not a problem. 50 fleas pop off? Hey, you better start shooting some bullets and trying to get control. So all these things together really does compromise an integrated pest management program. My other analogy is I've never seen a boxer win throwing one punch. They throw lefts, rights, uppercuts, jabs. This is lefts, rights, uppercuts, jabs. You're trying to solve a problem using one thing with fleas, it ain't going to work. And there ain't nothing worse than a bloodsucker. I've been doing this for 30 years. I can handle anything. Snakes, spiders, doesn't matter. What don't I like? Bed bugs, ticks, mosquitoes, fleas. I'm a lot of things. Dinner isn't one of them. So now we're in the living room, and I just want to do a brief demonstration of how I would treat a couch. Now here you got to be a little careful because you got some leather bookends. But I've got my spray tank, I've got my residual, my synergist, and my birth control in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly spray this carpet, just in a small area, and then I'm going to go ahead and start taking the pillows and spraying the pillows. People ask me, where are you going to spray, Frank? And I sarcastically reply, stand still long enough and I'll spray you. It's true. When I spray for fleas, I spray everywhere. And I spray all the pillows, and I'll do 1 pillow at a time. Let's get these guys down here. Another easy trick. People say, well, I got fleas. Where are they? Well, they're everywhere. No, they're not. You know, they're in specific areas. How can you tell? Fleas respond to vibration. That's why vacuuming is so important. When the beater bar hits the carpet, it triggers the fleas to go from one developmental stage to the next, egg to larva, larva to pupa, pupa to adult. When they go through this metamorphosis, they're actually more susceptible to poison. They're easier to kill. So by vacuuming, it triggers them to go from one of those stages. It's a great time to come and spray, but then you darn sure better make sure that you empty the bag or treat the bag, because you vacuum those fleas up, they're not going to die inside there. So we've sprayed the pillows. Now we're going to go ahead and spray the cushions. All the cushions come off. And we're just going to do them one at a time. Another simple, easy way to tell where fleas are, this is a good trick. Take a white bath towel. You can throw it in the dryer, just warm it up briefly. You don't really have to, but it's a good trick. And then you grab it by the ends, and if you pull it through your house, flip it over as you leave each room. If there's fleas in the room, they're going to jump on that towel. In a hardwood floor area, what you can do is ball it up, run it along the baseboards where dog hair might, get accumulated. Unroll that towel, fleas in that room, they're going to be on that towel. Now what you got to remember to do is check the towel as you go through a threshold. Why? Well, if I drag an entire house and I get to the last room and I flip it over and I say, oh, there's fleas. Well, what room did they come from? So what you want to do is drag the bedroom, look at the towel, 1 flea. Drag the hallway, look at the towel, 5 fleas. Drag the master bed, 30 fleas. Well, that's where I'm going to concentrate my treatment. Doesn't mean I'm not going to treat those other areas, but I'm going to concentrate my efforts where I found 30 fleas. So it's another simple, easy way to figure out where the fleas are. So I'm just going to continue treating these couches and these cushions. I might have lost my place with this one cushion, so I'll spray it again. And then we have these over here. And then over here, I'll actually go ahead and spray, the corners. Now, I'll be pretty careful around the leather. And spray the back. Okay? And I do draperies. What's interesting is if you have a cat that jumps on a counter, when he comes to that short stop, the flea eggs or larvae will actually, with force be thrown forward. Well, I've been known to stand back and treat those drapes because that's where those fleas are going to be. You have to hunt them down. You have to hunt them down. So this basically is a good demonstration of how I treat the couch. Remember, I've got at least 3 materials in here, and then I'm going to actually come back after I'm done with that ultracide, which is the fogger in the can, and lightly gas that area. So when you think about all the materials I've used an insecticidal granule outside, 2 different residual insecticides. I used the residual insecticide inside, a synergist inside, a birth control inside, and ultracide. I don't think I forgot anything. But that's a lot of materials. That's a lot of punches. And that alone is going to give you a good... And then you still got to worry about what are you going to do for your dog. That's when that pet core comes in. Spray the washcloth, set the dog down, love your dog, and that's another tool in the toolbox. Transitioning from the front yard where we were treating for fleas to my retail store. This is an area where a homeowner can come and purchase the materials and with a little guidance can go home and do the treatment themselves. For instance, here's one of the tools that I was using the other day at the house was the ultracide. I think I said this is like the frosting on the cake. So all up here, here's the birth control materials, different birth control, some of our other specimens of snakes, etc., etc. But these are all available to the retail user to come in and go ahead and we'll educate them about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and then they can go home and do it themselves. The main thing is that we put a quality material in their hand. In my opinion, pest control is only 3 things. The applicator, does he know what he's doing? The materials, are they any good? And the frequency that they're applied. To a certain extent, you could be an idiot, and if you're working with a quality material, you're going to do a pretty good job. And conversely, you could be Einstein, and if you're working with crap, you're going to do a crappy job. So the materials, to me, are the key. And then over here are all our residual insecticides. All lined up, all labeled properly, and again, each material, This is a micro-encapsulated material. What does that mean? Well, when you look at it under a microscope, it looks like little tiny bowling balls. Okay, it makes it easier for the insect to pick up. Termiticides. How do termiticides work? Totally different dissertation. You know, I have rodent school, termite school, German cockroach school. You know, all the time people call me and say, what bug is this? Mail it to me, I can tell you what it is. So this store allows us to go ahead and help the retail user come in and buy a material that's going to work for them. You know, my opinion is bias, and I preface my comments with my bias, but if you buy a material at a large box store, you know who they are, in my humble opinion, those materials are not designed to work. Why? If they worked, you wouldn't go back and buy more. Whereas here, these are professional materials. I don't want to come back to your house. I want to do it right the first time and move on. You know, callbacks are a killer. So for us, all of these materials that the professional use are designed to work. Okay? And that's the whole idea with having the Ultracide and the Precor and the pet material and the birth control and the residual insecticide. Here's the Synergist we were talking about that makes the insects hop more, 6% pyrethrum. You know, all these materials in conjunction with each other are going to give the homeowner a high level of control. You know, down here I've got some materials. If you ever are building a house, we can actually do pre-treats where we go and treat the studs, the sill plate, all along the base of the floorboard. And to a certain extent, what this is liquid boric acid. You know, you spray it on the form boards, the sill plate, it soaks in. It's an algicide, a fungicide. It's just a great material. You know, we don't do things the old, well, we're just going to spray all the ground with poison everywhere. Well, for God's sakes, no, there's a smarter way. You know, there's been advances in heart medicine and cataract surgery, and there's been advances in entomology, the study of insects. A lot of my materials, they actually formulate it so it's barely there. You know, if I'm trying to control ant species, over here is all my ant baits. And I've got soup to nuts when it comes to ant baits. But some of the problems with store-bought materials is they're too hot. All right, what do you mean by that, Frank? There's too much active ingredient. In order for an ant bait to work, social insects, you're trying to kill the egg-bearing queen. So my target is mama ant, mama bee, mama termite. Well, if there's too much active ingredient, the ant isn't going to make it home to share the food. If you're an ant and I'm an ant, you throw up to me, we walk away with equal amounts of food. I think it's called a troval axis. Anyways, with store-bought materials, there's too much active. Well, if they die on the way home, it ain't going to work. So with a lot of the baits, they actually formulate it down so there's less of it there. Again, you know, it's just one of those little nuances that makes a huge difference when you're trying to gain control of a certain pest. Whether it be a birth control bait for ants or a different type of a material, you know, for whether it be carpenter ant baits or nuisance ants. I even have baits that acts as a cockroach and an ant bait. So, you know, all of these things have their place, but you know, you're not going to see these things in a big box store, and you're sure not going to get anybody to explain them to you in a form that you can understand and then actually go home and apply them in a way that's going to give you a control level that you're trying to achieve. We're a family-owned business. We're located at 1118 East Highway 90A in the Richmond-Rosenberg area. We're about a mile east of the Brazos River Bridge. Sugar Land's that way. Richmond-Rosenberg is that way. Okay? East, west. If you have any questions or problems, call us 281-341-1761. We're here Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. 30 years in business has allowed us to not be open on nights, holidays, or weekends. So it is what it is. But if you have any questions, please call us. We'll do our best to help you. We're a family-owned and operated business for almost 30 years. We know our bugs. So when you want the best, call Integrated Pest.